If you uncover a past life that wasn't necessarily happy or joyful, or you just really weren't a very good person, is there anything you can do now to bring healing to that past life? The answer is yes, and let me share a story with you. I did a past life session where my female client was a he in a previous lifetime. He was a big, burly, overweight construction worker who was very angry. He grew up in poverty, never had enough food, and his parents were just trying to survive. He had a wife, a daughter, and a son. He got angry at his wife often and would hit her. He never showed affection to his children because he didn't know how. He felt broken and guilty for hitting his wife. He knew he shouldn't, but he did it anyway. She made him angry when she would start talking about money and paying bills, and he would just hit her. He didn't make a lot of money. He grew up himself with no parental love and support. His parents were literally just trying to survive in their poverty. I took him to the day of his death and saw that he was lying in bed, dying of lung cancer, and he was filled with regret and remorse. Doing his construction work, it was something like asbestos that caused the toxicity in his lungs. He died a painful death and was also ashamed that he wasted his life being so angry. Neither his wife nor his children were there. He died alone and said that the anger destroyed him and that he did not love them like he should have because he just didn't know how. After he died, he said he wants to come back right away so he can make a change and learn how to love. He wants another chance at it. He couldn't see how the anger was destroying him back then, but now, out of the body, he could clearly see it and wants a do-over. He feels like he didn't fulfill his potential. A little bit later in the session, I asked if we could do some healing for that man. I want to read from my notes, and this is what I asked my client's higher self. I said, going back to that construction worker, would it benefit him to have you gather up all of the trauma and neglect he felt from not being loved and supported in his lifetime? Send all of that trauma and neglect up to Creator's light and replace it with Creator's unconditional love and support, and tell us what that looks like as you do it. My client's higher self responded and said, yes, I would like to do that. There's a feeling of being engulfed, like I'm in the womb. There's safety, there's deep peace, and a deep knowing that I am enough. I then asked my client's higher self, I said, and what about the shame or guilt that he was holding on to? Is he ready to release that up to Creator's light and allow that to be replaced with unconditional love and light at this time? Her higher self responded and said, yes, I do feel some resistance though. I said, is he having a hard time forgiving himself, or what is the resistance? Her higher self said, it's like a loss of identity. I said, what do you mean by that? And her higher self said, he is unsure of who or what he will be, a scared child. He knows this is a necessary step. I then said, what about having angels come all around him, hug him, and embrace him, comfort that scared child that was inside of him, and let him feel incredible amounts of acceptance and love, and allow them to melt away all of the shame and guilt that he was holding on to? Would that work? Her higher self said, yes. There is a great release, a melting away. It's tears of joy. A burden has been lifted. He can see better, like clearer vision, just more free, and his chest feels open. I then asked, what lessons did he learn from holding on to that anger? Her higher self said anger prevents him from moving towards what he wants, moving towards loving others and loving God, being free. He learned that anger was a choice. He didn't have to hold it. I asked if he wanted to send that anger up to God's light, and the answer was yes. When I asked, what does it look like for him to release that anger up to God? Her higher self said, he's smiling. His face is surrounded by a glow. His eyes are brighter. There is a gentleness in the way that he moves, and he is hugging the souls that are around him. He feels new. He feels like a new person. I then asked her higher self, would it benefit him to have you download Creator's definition and perspective of peace into him and teach him what it feels like to live in peace? Her higher self responded and said, yes, he feels very calm and relaxed. His mind feels clear, and there's a restfulness in his soul now. I asked if there was any other healing that he could possibly want at this time, and her higher self said, nope, that's all he feels he needs. And healing the anger in that lifetime will then in turn benefit my client for any anger she has here. So while I was on the topic, I asked, does she have the same issue in this lifetime? And the answer was yes, but to a lesser degree. And she's holding a lot of it in her gut. She holds it as a burning sensation that comes and goes, but it's definitely anger. I asked, why is she holding this anger? And her higher self said, she holds it in a weird kind of way to use as motivation for her life, motivation to work harder and to try harder. And her higher self said, this is actually taught in American society. You take your circumstances and your anger and you turn it inward to drive and motivate yourself, to have a goal, to be more, to have more. But it often drives you to the wrong place and to the wrong goals. If you can release it and allow love to guide you, that is what will drive you to the right goals. So now that we uncovered the reason why she was holding on to anger and how it was motivating her, I asked if she was ready to release it and send it to Creator's light. And her higher self said, oh, yes, she's ready. Her higher self described the process as being a physical sensation, not uncomfortable, but she could definitely feel it. Described it as being like a warmth, an energy vibration that soothed the burning. Then her higher self put a coating on the inside of her stomach to soothe where the anger had been removed. And then stated, now her abdomen feels at rest. So, in addition to giving healing for that past life version for herself that can benefit her in this lifetime, we got to see how it carried over a bit into this lifetime. And that's a pattern that I see a lot. If we don't deal with something in a previous life, we tend to carry it over so it can be dealt with later on. Exploring past lives can be very beneficial in showing us things that are yet unresolved and giving us clues as to what might be going on with us in this lifetime.